Welcome once again to A Word with Joy. This is Joy Bennett, your producer and host. I am absolutely thrilled to have this time Brandon Steenhoek with me, who I met at the American Film Convention that we just both attended. In fact, he was one of the first people I met there. We were sitting in a workshop and talk on distribution. And here he was right there and just taking notes on his iPad and all that. And I just started chatting with him and I realized, oh my goodness, this guy is a heavily experienced industry professional. And I'm like handing out cards and pens and trying to get. So he agreed to sit down really at the last minute. I had a feeling that I should get an episode on the podcast related to AFC. By the way, if you're interested in AFC, you can go to AmericanFilmConvention.com. The link is still up there. A fantastic event that Brandon and I just both attended last week, last week. And it's in Los Angeles. This was their first year, and they're going to have it every year in Los Angeles in October, from what I understand. So look forward to that. It's great for people who are filmmakers, directors, writers, producers, people who are interested, art actors, anyone who's interested in the entertainment industry. So having said that, I'd like to focus on Brandon here. Brandon, I'm just going to read his bio because, among other things, he's an excellent writer. He sent me a 4 or 5 line bio, which was right on. So I could not have written this better. I'm just going to read it to you. Brandon Steenhoek is a production manager and producer with an emphasis in visual effects. He's had 6 years of experience on films and shows with studios including Lionsgate, Netflix, Apple TV+, Marvel, HBO Max, 20th Century, and Sony. He is an avid storyteller who infuses his passion into each project he is brought onto, and he loves learning how to use new technology to improve productivity and creativity for his teams. So his current job, this is a full-time permanent position in the entertainment industry, is a visual effects producer at a place called The Third Floor Inc. Now, I'm seeing this third floor all over the place. That's where he works. And I'm thinking, what is the third floor? What is that? Is that like the fifth wall? What the? So I'm trying to Google and find out what the heck. And then I realized, you idiot, it's where he works. So once I looked into the third floor, I realized this place is the world's leading visualization studio. He has, they've got all kinds of, Disney, Netflix, Amazon, Marvel, Sony clients, things that you and I have watched both in movie theaters and on streaming. They do TV, games, virtual reality, themed park attractions, tons of films. If, it seems like they're the industry leader, I would think. What do you say, Brandon?
Yeah, I also want to just make a quick correction. For these guys, I've been mostly a production manager, and I did some coordinating as well. I haven't done any visual effects producing for them.
Okay. But they do visualization studios. So
yeah, they do visualizations. Yeah. I would say they are the leading visualization studio in the world, which is awesome.
Thank you for that. Okay, so he's known for his work on Prey, the movie Prey, The Marvels, and Call of the Wild, which I saw and enjoyed. Nice. I loved that movie. It was very much up my alley. Loki, The Valet, Lord of the Rings of Power. So all of this stuff he's been working on there through the third floor. And basically his title there is Creative Department Project Manager. Mm-hmm. So now he's segueing to, I assume you're going to keep that job full-time and also do the production on this.
So what happened is I've, for the past year and a half, almost 2 years, have been working on Third Floor's first feature animation project, and we're just about wrapped with it. I was production managing the art and paint departments of mm-hmm. the animation, including designing all of the characters and all of the environments and that sort of thing. And we're now wrapping up with the paint portion and moving into all lighting and comp. So I'm going to be rolling off of that project. And like I was telling you earlier, I'm looking at a couple different things that I'm doing once I roll off that project. One one of the things actually is I was hired to produce a breakdancing competition video that is going to shoot next month. So I'm going to go into pre-production on that as soon as we finish this last week on this project. And then I also just got the rights to a very popular young adult fantasy romance novel that I'm putting together a package for in hopes to produce that with a major studio.
And you would be the producer of that, and that would be separate from the third.
Completely separate from the third floor. Yeah. Once this contract is over with this current animated feature, I'm going to be not working with the third floor until another opportunity presents itself.
You're going to go off into film production on your own. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
He has a wonderful background in, all these great projects. Before working at the third floor, he's been there since March 2022. He was at Mediator Films. Then he was at VSX production manager at Temperamental Films Inc. in Los Angeles. A huge, if you go on his internet, LinkedIn rather, you can see all these incredible accomplishments and background he has. One interesting thing, he helped work on the set of the movie Hyde. This is in December 2011 to January 2012. And he wrote the opening theme song for it. So as well as all these other accomplishments, you must be a musician, which blows my mind. I mean, you can't do, Brandon. I mean, give me a break. And get this. In Corona del Sol High School, he started, this is in February 2011 to March 2011, he started Shade Shack, a week-long sunglasses company. You created advertisement and marketing material and sold $1,000 of products in 1 week. Amazing. So
that was a lot of fun.
He's a advanced open water scuba diver.
Yeah, that just happened in February. I've been scuba diving for about 13 years, but I just completed my last course for advanced. That was a ton of fun.
That is amazing. So when you're working on a big production like this, for example, The Call of the Wild, is it like you or the visual effects on there? What's it daily like? I mean, are you there from 5 a.m. to 3 a.m. or was that is each production different?
Absolutely.
The nuts and bolts of the inside of big studio production. That's what we want to know.
So Call of the Wild was my very first feature production. Before that, I was just on commercials and TV shows. And so I was hired on to Call of the Wild as a visual effects PA. I arrived in July of 2018, and this was about a month and a half, maybe 2 months before we started shooting. And it was going to be, I don't remember exactly how many months it was. It was like 5 months shoot, maybe 6. And that could be way off. I don't remember exactly, but anywhere between 3 to 5 months, I think, was the shoot. So my job as soon as I arrived was to gather all of the elements, like physical elements that we would need to produce the visual effects and collect all the reference materials that we needed for visual effects for all of the different sets. And so that involved collecting a bunch of cameras, a bunch of what's called ball and chart passes. And what that is a large metal ball. And on one side is completely metallic, almost like a mirror. And on the other side is painted with a neutral gray. And then you hold that up with a chart, a color chart, so that in every lighting scenario, you can see what the light is doing to these colors, what these colors look like as true according to the light, because light affects color. And then
like doing a white balance.
Yeah, and then the ball represents where all of the lights are impacting the animated element, because as you saw at Call of the Wild, the main character is a CG dog.
Yeah.
And so every single shot that dog was in there, we had to do a ball pass, and we had his name's Terry Notary. He's a motion expert. So he walked like a dog in a suit, and then we would use that as like movement reference. So making a visual effects heavy movie like that is all about collecting as many references as possible to implement into the final product.
It was good. I mean, who was it? Harrison Ford. I'm trying to remember.
Harrison Ford was the
Harrison Ford.
lead.
Yeah, he was good
Yeah.
in that. Then you worked on the Marvels and
Hmm.
Prey.
Hmm.
I mean, these are movies that everybody goes to see. They're like huge. What was a typical day at Prey, the movie Prey?
Prey was an especially exciting movie to work on because Dan Trachtenberg is incredibly collaborative. I love working with him because when
He
he
was the
has
director.
he's the director of the movie, yeah, and he likes to go into story building mode where kind of everyone in the room has a say. So if
Yeah,
I have an idea as a visualization
yeah,
coordinator, I can throw it out there and he can stab it like maybe it's a terrible idea, or maybe he'll be like, that makes me think of an even better idea. And it was so satisfying to get to be in the room and throw ideas out. And yeah, he's wonderful to work with and he has excellent ideas.
cool. That
Yeah.
is awesome. So next you're doing film, independent film as a producer. So how do you uh, handle in your head the switch from the visual to the production? Is it kind of daunting, or are you reading? And I know you were there at the AFC to learn, and I think that's admirable. But how have you prepared? I mean, have you watched everything on the set, or give us an example of what the
This
transition's been like for you?
great question. So in the very first production I ever worked on in college, not actually that's not true. It was the second one because the very first one I worked on, as you said, was 2011. I was working on my uncle's set. It was a very small independent film, and I was waving the smoke around as a grip, the haze, so that it would fill out properly. And in that moment, I spent 3 days on set, and I was just like, "This is amazing! I just want to do this for the rest of my life." And so when I got to college, I got hired as a PA on a small TV show. And I started talking to the producer as I was like carrying coffees around, doing regular PA stuff. And I told him that I eventually want to be a producer. And he told
Good.
me the best way to do that is to learn what every single department does and
That's
do it well.
fantastic.
And
Yes.
so for the whole next 2 years from that
Yes.
moment, I started making connections with art department and with camera department and with lighting department. And I would get hired as like the lowest position on each of those
Mm-hmm.
places and learn how to move lights and learn how to,
Yep.
put set decorations in the right place, learn how to focus pole. And the whole
Honing your
goal
craft.
was, what's that?
Honing your craft.
Exactly. Yeah. And then by the end of, those 2 years, I was ADing commercials and TV shows, or not TV shows, commercials and short films. I was gaffing for commercials and I really felt like I belonged. It took me
Mm-hmm.
some time. Um, but then my next goal was I know how to do the production stuff. I know but what I don't know is how to manage budgets. And so that's
Mm.
why I wanted to go into visual effects. We manage really big
Mm-hmm.
budgets. Visual effects
Mm.
budgets are sometimes more than half of an
Yeah, if you
entire
control the
budget.
money, you control your world. I've learned that.
Exactly. And so yeah, that led me to visual effects and I fell in love with the technology and all of the creativity that it offers. And always with the end goal of utilizing that experience to allow me to produce um, the the movies and the stories that I'm the most passionate about.
Great. That sounds wonderful. And you do have a degree from Utah Valley University in digital media,
I actually
cinematography, and film. Or did
I
you?
actually do not have a degree. I
Oh, where you
started,
studied?
and 2 years into it, I was hired as a
Oh,
challenge producer on a reality show,
oh.
which took
Well,
me
let's say you
away.
studied at Utah Valley University, digital media, cinematography, and film video production, and you didn't finish because you
Yes.
got hired on a job. I mean, how
Yeah.
great is that?
Yeah. Yeah. I was like,
But
I
I
can't
would
say
say
no
by
to
this
this.
point, they would probably grant it to you just because you're learning on the job at this stage. So I don't think I'd worry too much about that. That's fabulous. And how did you get into scuba diving? Are you just always love the water?
um, I've always loved the water. Yeah. Grew up in Arizona where if it's summertime, you're either in the water or you're in the AC inside. So I spent a
Mm-hmm.
lot of time swimming. And I think when I was 16, I had the opportunity to get scuba certified and go on a 3-day trip to Catalina Island and just living in a
Oh,
boat
beautiful.
with a bunch of friends. So we did
Cool.
that, and that really stoked a whole new love of being underwater.
Yeah. But that's also good because a lot of films combine water elements. So, it's good for you to know the safety element. I'm thinking of James Cameron,
Actually,
But
something that's funny, you remember in Call of the Wild, there's a whole underwater scene when
yeah.
she's
Oh, yeah.
so
It's very dramatic.
I was VFX wrangling that area. There was a whole third unit, the underwater unit, and that was like my unit as the VFX person for like a week. It was really
Uh-huh.
fun.
It was a very good scene. I mean, it was great. I really like that movie.
That's great.
Now, having said all that about your wonderful career that is burgeoning and going off in different directions and all that, you do, on top of that, have another thing that you do called 100 Days Off. Did you want to explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can give a little brief. So in 2023, I had this realization over conversation with some close friends that I was making choices in my life based on basically a dopamine addiction. I was so interested in the ride of like feeling better than I was currently feeling. I didn't
Mhm.
like that. I didn't want to be that way. And so
Mhm.
I came up with this strategy to quit all of my vices for 100 days and focus on sleep, working out, and eating healthy every
Your
day.
mom was
Those were
probably
like,
so happy.
she absolutely was, yeah.
Now,
And
let's hear the list of vices because they're quite impressive.
okay, yeah, it was alcohol, weed, other drugs, porn, dating apps, social
Social media.
media,
Social
caffeine,
media would
and
be the
sugar.
hardest one for me.
Oh, it was definitely the biggest one for me too.
Oh,
That was the most withdrawals I had was social
yeah.
media. And actually, the very first day that I quit everything, I kept pulling out my phone and trying to click where the app used to be. It happened about 10 times in the course of an hour, and that's how I knew I was addicted and I needed to fix this, you know?
It's great to do that, to have the self-discipline to do that. I mean, to just quit everything like that cold turkey for 100 days. And then you started a diary?
Yeah, I decided the best way to utilize this information was to write daily about it as I went
Mhm.
through. And at the end of the 100 days, I started putting it together into a book. It's not done yet. I have about 6 chapters of rewrites to go.
That sounds great. I definitely would be interested in that. So that's something to look out for from Brandon down the road. Uh, as well as of all the forms that you've worked on, what's your favorite? The shorts, features, TV, or you don't care, you just want to do the work, or
That's a really good question. Favorite. It's always hard for me to pick like one thing above everything else. I mean, probably the very first one was the most magical, Call of
yeah,
the Wild. I was on
yeah.
there for 2 years. I was on set the entire time. I worked with fantastic actors and team, and it was a great entry into my career. You
You
know, I
probably
couldn't ask
learned
for
a
a better
lot.
first movie. Yeah.
That's good because a lot of times people have, their hopes and dreams. They finally get a job, and it may not be so ideal. There's a lot of conflict and stress and pressure, especially these days in the industry. And you were lucky to have a good experience like that. Um,
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was plenty of stress and
yeah,
conflicts that we went through as well, but
yeah,
overall, pretty
that's good.
positive.
So he's creative department manager at the third floor, which is not something like the fifth wall. It's a it's a visual, a top visual studio,
And
and
they're actually, I just want to say they actually just celebrated their 20th year
great.
anniversary of being
That's a really
around. So
impressive firm. Talk to me more.
congratulations to the third
Yeah,
floor.
talk to me a little bit more about the third floor, just because I don't think a lot of people know about this.
Sure. So they, like I said, are the premier visualization studio here in Los Angeles, and I think across the world. They have a location in London as well. And essentially, they focus on previs, post-viz, and tech-viz. Previs is creating the movie visually before you go shoot it so that you make important decisions before you shoot it, when it's a lot cheaper to make those decisions than on set.
Yeah.
It also allows a lot of iteration. When you have a very complicated sequence, if you can iterate on what it looks like, how it feels, you can get to a much stronger sequence by the end of that iteration. And then TechViz is very technical. It's measurements, and it's specifically for stunt scenes. So you're able to show exactly where the camera will be based on like measurements in 3D. And then post-viz is once you've finished shooting plates.
Post-viz means post-visualization?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Once you finish shooting the plates on set, you're laying in temporary visual effects so that in screenings, we can the creative team can have an idea what the final will look like without spending all of the money and time. Yeah. And again, iterate on that. Like, actually the way this cape that I wanted it to look like for Batman, actually, I think it's going to look a little bit different. Like, let's throw in the wind here instead of here.
That's amazing. I think that'd be so much fun. And I'm glad you're thinking about budgets, because that really is important in any endeavor, but especially in the film world, especially in entertainment world, especially these days. So if you have a reputation as a producer, and I know I met a producer on a plane once, he had a reputation of, now he was doing like rom-com Lifetime movies, but he had developed a reputation of bringing them in under budget, on time, and a decent piece of work. So he was getting a lot of work just producing these, directing, whatever. And it's not easy. I mean, there's a lot of elements. There's a lot of time pressure. There's people involved that may, somebody may have, who knows? So all the factors that go into making any kind of visual medium, but especially feature films, it's almost mind-boggling, Well, is there anything you'd like to add or ask or talk about, Brandon? I just have a little time left.
No, I think I feel pretty satisfied with everything. It was great to talk to you. I'm so glad that we met at the AFC, and I had a wonderful time there for the rest of it. I learned so much, and I think the program that was created was fantastic. And
I thought it was a great job. Good. I even got my headshots done.
Oh, yeah. You told me that. That's awesome. I did.
And, I needed them because they asked me for a professional photo, and I had to scrape something up, and it wasn't really quite right. And I'm like, look, if I need this, I'm going to get it done. Here's the guy for $50. I paid a little more for the retouching, but very reasonable, because I got them done years ago. It was more than that. So I'm like, great. And, all the people I met there, and it was so much fun. I almost had a little bit of withdrawal. Maybe that's why I'm doing this podcast with somebody from AFC. I gotta have more AFC.
Totally.
Anyway, let me just leave some links here if you would like to find out more about Brandon. His LinkedIn presence is just looked up Brandon Steenhoek. It's an unusual name, Steenhoek, first name Brandon. So it's an unusual enough name, you'll probably find him fairly easily enough. He's also on the Internet Movie Database, where you can see his credits. And look for the book to come out soon about the 100 Days Off. It's in the works, so that'll be exciting.
I have a website lander page for that, so if anybody wants that, I can give that to you.
What's that link?
It's quittingeverything.crd.co. Let me just make sure that's correct. quittingeverything.crd.co. It is. Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so that's quittingeverything.crd.co. So that has his ongoing project about quitting all these vices, making his mom happy. And really,
once that book is published,
the amount of self-discipline it takes to do that is really amazing. I mean, I struggle with chocolate. I do. I have a chocolate addiction. I'm in right now. I'm in low dose maintenance.
Okay.
I am. You think that's funny? It's not. I was going to C's once every week or two for £1.
Oh,
And
wow.
my numbers for my blood work went, I'm like, Joy, you got to
Oh,
stop this.
man.
You do not want to be a diabetic. You don't. Cut it out. Eat your vegetables. And I did. I'm not saying I will never have chocolate. I will, but I'll have like a couple pieces. My favorite thing is a teaspoon of Nutella. Oh my God. Anyway, but that's like at the end of the day after I've worked hard all day and I had my
Totally.
healthy protein drink for a snack. So it can be done.
That's
It's
right.
not easy. Social media, I'm hooked. First of all, I need it for my web presence. You know, everybody says, oh, put the Instagram.
Right.
I recently figured out how to do Instagram stories. And my daughter had to show me how to put the music on there, but I did it.
Yeah.
And, you know, the neat thing about Instagram is you can often get in touch with people that you just happen to meet or somebody, a friend of a friend, or whatever. And sometimes they won't write back. It's like, who the hell are you? Sometimes they're like, oh, hi, great to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes you could get funny people from, you know, they're from Nigeria and they say, I'm in Washington, D.C. I'm a surgeon. Yeah. And what do I do if I have all these symptoms of, you know, condition? I'll never hear from him again. So you got to be careful, but it helps a lot with my podcast and the writing and stuff to have those little stories and the social media. It does help engagement. I mean,
Absolutely.
these days you kind of have to be a marketer, a publicist, a financial, you know, you got to put yourself out
do it
there.
all.
Yeah. So it does help. Lots of fun there. You know, I'm sorry to say I do enjoy that. Anyway, so once again, to wrap up, Brandon Steenhoek, thank you so much for being with us. Look him up on LinkedIn, look him up on Internet Database, and soon to be coming out the quittingeverything.crd.co. I think that's a website in work in progress, so you can see things on there.
Yeah, it's just a lander page, and you can type in your email address, and I will send an update once it gets published.
Well, I will definitely do that. Thank you.
Cool.
And for me, this is a Word with Joy. This is Joy Bennett, your producer and host. I am a writer in Santa Monica and podcaster. If you'd like more information about my writing background, you can go to joybennett.com, 2 N's, 2 T's. And if you'd like more information about the podcast itself, visit awordwithjoy.com. You can also get my email should you have questions, comments, complaints, criticisms. We welcome it all. And you also will be getting, I try to tape at least once every 2 weeks. It looks like sometimes I'm going into once a week, which is driving me nuts, but you know, that's good. It's a good problem to have. People want to be on the show. It's getting more engagement. So that's great. I'm thrilled. But the other thing too is this has been a lot of fun. And if you're thinking about doing a podcast of your own, I have 2 episodes, episode 5 on this series, A Word with Joy, and episode 14 that I take. Listen to those. It'll tell you exactly how I did it. Not saying it's perfect, but it gets you off the ground. You can save some headaches for yourself. And it's all using stuff that is either free or very inexpensive off the internet. So it's been a lot of fun. Thank you very much, Brandon, for being with us. I know you're an extremely busy fellow. Once again, great to have you with us. And check out AFC next year also, or even this year. Look at the site. They may have some, who knows, information still on there. AmericanFilmConvention.com. Highly recommend it to anybody in the film industry, acting, directors, wannabe writers, whatever. Check it out. It's a great, great event. Thank you again, Brandon. You have a good evening.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye-bye.